Today, I'll be revisiting Digimon World DS, one of my favorite childhood games. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I've already played one of its sequels, Digimon World Dusk, so just be aware that I'm doing these a bit out of order. To be honest, I've been putting off this game for a pretty long time, because my last experience with Digimon Dusk was a bit painful. And it hurts to admit that because I did go into that playthrough with enthusiasm. It was also a cherished childhood game of mine, and I was excited for some sort of nostalgic fulfillment. And instead, it left me a broken man. Julia, oh Julia, where did I go wrong? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Dusk. I'm actually really glad I played it. It was satisfying to relive experiences that I'd forgotten, and battle against some awesome Digimon. But I feel like its grindy gameplay really didn't age well. Based off of my foggy memories of Digimon World DS, I do recall that the gameplay is similar, and that kinda terrifies me because I'm not sure if I want to go through that again. But somehow, that craving for adventure with those awesome digital monsters found a way back into my heart. So now, it's finally time to play Digimon World DS. The opening scene of this game is just iconic to me, oozing with nostalgia. We begin in an empty classroom, boot up a computer, and start investigating rumors of these mysterious creatures called digital monsters. I do a couple basic Google searches, click a sketchy pop-up, and boom, I'm suddenly teleported into the digital world, which most of you already know is a cyberspace, filled with creatures called Digimon, and human tamers who befriend and raise them. The Tamers and Digimon here are part of an organization called the Tamer Union, which is led by Clavis Angelmon. Apparently, they teleported me here because they sensed my untapped potential as a great tamer. I'm personally a bit concerned about being practically kidnapped for that, but our protagonist doesn't seem to mind at all, and is already eager for an adventure. Already, we get to pick out our first Digimon, and there's 3 to choose from. Thanks to Digimon Adventures, I already know what these guys will turn into later. My pick's gotta go to Gabumon. Well, you're not a Gabumon quite yet, but that's gonna be your name. Now that we have our first Digimon, it's time for a tutorial. We stumble upon some Digimon who are under attack, and to save them, we're thrown into our very first battle. The game teaches us how to battle with menus. Lots and lots of menus. What kid is gonna go through all this? Instead of making you read, I'll try to explain the combat system briefly. It's turn-based combat, where Digimon take turns depending on their speed stat. There's 5 columns that the opponent Digimon can appear on, and depending on our Digimon's moves, we can attack 1 or multiple columns during each of our turns. Instead of attacking, we can also use items for healing, reviving, and replenishing MP. There's other nuances of the combat system I could go into, but this just about covers the basics. After this battle, the Union gives us something called a DigiFarm. The DigiFarm is sort of like a daycare we can put our extra Digimon in. It's got a lot of features like training to boost our Digimon stats and creating new Digimon to add to our team. For example, our newest member, a Poyoname I named One of the Digimon we saved earlier, Kalumon, becomes the caretaker of our farm, and we're gonna be visiting them frequently throughout the story. The way we can get to the DigiFarm is via this portal in our hub world, Digi Central. Right next to it is the portal we take to go into the wild and battle Digimon. I really appreciate that they decided to put these 2 portals close to each other. In Digimon Dusk, you had to take quite the hike to do the same thing. Digi Central has what you'd expect from a hub world, like shops and wandering NPCs you can chat with. It's got a nice vibe, and I think I might like this place more than Darkmoon City, especially because of this hidden gem of an NPC, Catherine. This is the first of many times Catherine will share her love for Numamon. She is unironically one of my favorite parts of this game, and you'll see more of her later on. Anyways, let's get back on track. Digi Central is also home to the aforementioned Tamer Union. The Union's mission is to help humans and Digimon coexist peacefully. Tamers in the Union can be promoted up the ranks depending on their achievements, starting from normal, then bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and finally Tamer King. Our ultimate goal in this game is to achieve that top rank, Tamer King. But we all have to start somewhere, so let's begin our journey with normal rank. In the Union, there are different observer Digimon in charge of every rank. They give out quests and decide if Tamers are ready to be promoted. For normal rank, our observer is a Zulongmon, and to be promoted to bronze, we have to prove ourselves to be a noble tamer. Now that's a pretty general ask, but helping out Digimon might be a good start. And what do you know, our friend Kalumon needs some help. They asked me to fetch a cake from a place called Training Peak. I have no idea what this cake is doing in the mountains, but at least it was easy to find. You could say it was a piece of cake to find. Oh!
Brother, this guy stinks!
Then these two new characters show up, Kane and Tomomi. These guys really want this cake, and they're about to beat me up for it. Luckily, a tamer named Yuji comes to our rescue, and in response to being saved, our protagonist says, "I feel embarrassed to be human." Me too, man. We successfully delivered a cake to Gabumon at the DigiFarm. Then, out of nowhere, a BlackAgumon barges in and starts talking trash. He says he hates Tamers, calls our Digimon weak, and then challenges us to fight him back at Training Peak. Oh, hey, that rhymed. So we go through that area again. The grinding is already not feeling great, but at least we get to level up our Digimon. And after leveling up, we can Digivolve. Digivolving has got to be one of my favorite things about the Digimon series. It's like evolution in Pokemon, but on steroids. There's 5 stages Digimon can Digivolve to, starting from in training, then rookie, champion, ultimate, and finally, mega. These Digivolutions can get absolutely ridiculous, and I am all for it. For now though, we're starting small with the Digivolutions. We have Sunamon the Gabumon Digivolve into a Gabumon. And we continue traveling through Training Peak. When we find BlackAgumon, we try to convince him that the bond between Tamers and Digimon is valuable and can actually make them stronger, but he's having none of it and we fight. I love the boss fight music in this game. I was jamming out during our battle. But soon, things would take a turn for the worse, because BlackAgumon wiped out my team. To be honest, I'm already feeling discouraged about finishing this game. The world and the characters have given me a good first impression, but I am not a fan of this gameplay. The repetitive battles, their time-consuming animations, the backtracking. I've been through this before. I am afraid and not strong enough to go through that again. So, I made a decision.
Speed. I am speed.
I put speed hacks on. I'm only speeding up the grinding portions of this game. For any story related things, I'll still go through that like normal. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's continue. With our newfound speed, we blast through Training Peak again. Grinding is a breeze. Ponyo digivolves, and this time, we emerge victorious against BlackAgumon. It seems like I haven't completely changed his mind about hating Tamers yet, but it looks like there's a chance he'll open up to us one day. Back at Digi Central, Azulongmon hears about what we did and is proud that we stood up for our Digimon. Recognizing me as a noble tamer, I'm promoted to bronze rank. We're now one step closer to becoming Tamer King. For bronze rank, we get a new observer, a Bonmimon. In order to reach silver rank, we have to find a missing researcher named Phil. And that's all the game gives us. With no other information to go off of, we actually have to talk to the NPCs around Digi Central for a clue on Phil's whereabouts. This is a really cool way to make this hub world feel more alive. Unfortunately, most of these guys don't know where Phil is and express concern about his disappearance. Except that NPC I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Catherine. She just says, "What do I need in order to make everyone realize Numamon's greatness? I can't even sleep thinking about it." We do end up finding a lead from a Digimon belonging to Phil's sister, Ellie. Ellie might know something, but she went missing too while looking for her brother. So we set out to an area called Steamy Jungle to find her. Normally, going through this area might be a chore, but remember,
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am.
I'm starting to really appreciate speed hacks for these grinding portions. If you've watched my Digimon Dusk playthrough, you might be starting to notice that these areas are looking very familiar. Well, that's because Digimon Dusk reused almost all of the sprite art from this game. Okay, so I understand reusing the Digimon sprites since they're so awesome. But the maps too? Really? The one saving grace here is that this game's maps are much easier to navigate than the convoluted mazes of Dusk. And honestly, it wasn't that much trouble to reach the end of Steamy Jungle. Here, we find Ellie, but have to save her from an Arukanemon. Before this encounter, I added a couple new members to the team, Cake and Wiggles, and with a full team of 3, we managed to win this fight. We then take Ellie back to safety in Digi Central, where she shares a lead on Phil's location. It's a mysterious place called the Forbidden Land. Once again, we've got to ask the NPCs for hints as to where this place even is. Catherine, have you heard of a place called the Forbidden Land? Eventually, we hear that the BlackAgumon from before might know something about the Forbidden Land, so back to Training Peak we go. There, we discover that BlackAgumon has been hard at work since our last fight, and digivolved into Dark Tyrannomon. He of course asked for another battle, and fortunately, this one turned out better than last time. Afterwards, Dark Tyrannomon's still not quite our friend yet, but it looks like we're starting to build a nice rivalry. I really like the character development that's building up here. In the end, he gives us some information about the Forbidden Land. It's actually referencing a place called Chrome Mine. Cool, so all we've got to do is go to Chrome Mine, right? No, of course not. It can't be that simple. To access Chrome Mine, you need an item called a Miracle DE, and we have to get it from a... And finally, after that, we can get into Chrome Mine. That was a bit of a hassle, but hey, at least we got some good training out of it. Our team has digivolved from a team of rookies to champions. We've got Wiggles the Stingmon, Cake the Angelmon, and Gabumon the Garurumon. We traverse through Chrome Mine and finally find Phil, but we also find why he's been missing for so long. A powerful Megastage Digimon, Machinedramon, has been holding him hostage. As a mere bronze tamer, I am no match for this guy, and things are looking bad. Then, Dark Tyrannomon appears. Is he here to save us? No, he's just looking for a fight to get stronger, and in an attempt to prove his strength, he challenges Machinedramon, and dies. Machinedramon reveals that he was ordered to capture Phil by some mysterious boss named Unknown D. They wanted to use Phil's research on Digivolution to make them stronger. After learning this, Phil tricks Machinedramon. Instead of using his research to digivolve him, he uses it to degenerate him down a stage, from Mega to Ultimate. Now that he was a Skull Greymon, my team stood a fighting chance and we defeat him. With Phil rescued, we reunite him with his sister, Ellie, and Gabumon rewards us with the silver rank for bringing him back. The quest is over, but there's still an unanswered question in the air: the identity of this mysterious Unknown D. Before diving into Silver Rank, let's take a quick detour to discuss the degeneration mechanic. This may sound counterintuitive, but degeneration is necessary to get stronger, because when a Digimon degenerates, then digivolves back up, it will be much stronger than it was last time at that stage. I go through this process often while grinding, and I really like how this mechanic was introduced with saving Phil from Machinedramon. Anyways, let's get back on track. Pagumon is the observer for Silver Rank. He introduces us to a young Digimon named Pagumon, who hasn't been getting along with any Tamers. Our quest is to raise Pagumon. If we do a good job, we'll be promoted to Gold Rank. We're off to a shaky start with Pagumon, who doesn't listen to us, runs off on their own, and gets poisoned. It seems like some bad experiences in Pagumon's past have created an innate distrust of Tamers. However, after healing them with an antidote, Pagumon begins to trust me a bit. We try to see if they can get along with other humans, starting with Ellie, and things seem to be going well, until Pagumon eats a precious star piece she was holding, which makes her run away in tears. Pagumon's starting to figure out this whole empathy thing, and wants to get a new star piece to cheer her up. So to get a new one, we travel to an area called Packet Swamp. After a little while, we find some frogs at the end of the area, who we'll need to defeat for a new star piece. I did a bit of grinding before this match and digivolved most of my team to Ultimates. Gabumon's now a War Garurumon, Cake is a Magnet Angelmon, and Wiggles has digivolved into one of my favorite designs, Dino Beemon. What an awesome looking Digimon. We defeat the frogs and get our star piece. Before leaving the swamp, I want to show you this line of dialogue. It's not important or anything, I just like it a lot. Pagumon makes up with Ellie by giving her the new star piece. It's nice to see how much Pagumon's grown since we first met, but this nice moment is interrupted by a Digimon named Alphamon. He shows up out of nowhere and berates us for how we've been raising Pagumon. He coldly claims that Digimon don't need kindness, they don't need humans, they only need strength through Digivolution. Then he just dips. That was a bit weird. One of the most powerful beings in the digital world just made his grand entrance to mock a child. I don't know, seems kinda petty to me. When asking Bihumon what he knows about Alphamon, we learned that he used to be good friends with the leader of the union, Clavis Angelmon. They were working together to improve the lives of Digimon. However, Alphamon disagreed with the idea of bringing humans into the digital world and left. Despite a pretty bad first impression, Bihumon assures us that Alphamon's not a bad guy. You know who are bad guys though? Tomomi and Kane, those two tamers that tried to jump us for cake at Training Peak. We run into them again. We find out that Tomomi used to be Pagumon's tamer, and they did not get along. I get that Pagumon used to be a little stinker, but Jesus Christ, these guys just spew out insult after insult. For Pagumon, this interaction seems to have triggered some bad memories. Memories of a past life? Pagumon leaves for some time alone to collect our thoughts, and then gets into some trouble that requires rescuing. We head out to a place called Mangrove Woods to save Pagumon, and here we... oh my god.
Leave me alone!
Pagumon starts opening up about their memories of being reincarnated. The memories are still foggy, so we vow to help recover them. We start off with trying to find a place Pagumon's been seeing in their dreams, an unknown town surrounded by cliffs and fossils. At Digi Central, we ask around if anyone knows where this place is. Most people don't. Catherine straight up doesn't give a shit since it has nothing to do with Numamon. But Yuji, the strong tamer that saved us before, points us towards a location called Ancient Canyon. There, we find an old couple. They tell us a tale about an evil Chimeramon who once ravaged the digital world. One day, a tamer and their Digimon, Antliamon. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just realized that I've been mispronouncing Antilamon wrong for my entire life. And for this entire video. I am sorry. One day, a tamer and their Digimon, Antliamon, arrived to fight Chimeramon, but they died in battle. The Antliamon that died was reborn as Pagumon to stop Chimeramon. After this enlightening but kind of exposition-y conversation, Pagumon has now fully regained their memories. And not only do they remember living and dying as Antliamon, they reveal that they remember being reincarnated as another Digimon before, BlackAgumon. They used to hate tamers, but now, as Pagumon, they've changed after being raised by a noble tamer. Pagumon now wants to fulfill their purpose by digivolving into an Antliamon again and defeating Chimeramon once and for all. Normally to digivolve, we have to do a lot of training, but for Pagumon, the game has us fast forward this process by retrieving an item in Chrome Mine. Along the way, we get into a scuffle with Kane cause he's an asshole. Eventually though, we get the item, and instantly digivolve Pagumon to an Antliamon. Now, it's time to fight Chimeramon. We venture to a new area called Junk Factory to face off. Chimeramon has a sick design, combining parts of many Digimon you might be familiar with. This fight was tough, but we were able to defeat him thanks to the help of a couple new Digimon on the team, Ragu the Triceramon and Guy the Growlmon. After the battle, Antliamon reveals that when they fought Chimeramon in their previous life, their tamer actually ran away in fear, leaving them to die alone. This experience is probably what caused them to be reborn as that resentful BlackAgumon. But now, we've helped Antliamon restore their faith in humanity.
Are you sure about that?
Unknown D is back, and was the one behind Chimeramon's rampage. He warns us that humans are unreliable and can betray Digimon at any time, but Antliamon affirms that their trust in me will never be swayed. With that, our journey through Silver Rank is complete, and Baihumon promotes us to Gold. I think this whole arc with Pagumon and Antliamon is one of my favorite parts of this game. If I'm being critical, the whole reincarnation reveal could have been executed better, but I don't really care. There was just something so satisfying about helping Pagumon become a respectable Digimon, regain memories of their past lives, and fulfill their destiny. The observer for a gold rank is this elegant phoenix, Suchaomon. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. I really appreciate that the protagonist has the same reaction as me to these awesome Digimon designs. But we don't get to celebrate our new rank for long, because a virus suddenly attacks Digi Central, and our former observers get teleported away. The source of the virus seems to be coming from a place called Sky Palace. I know this is an urgent situation and I should be heading there immediately, but there's someone I gotta visit first. At Sky Palace, we find an enraged Azulomon who's clearly not acting like himself. A battle brings him back to his senses, but he doesn't remember much about what happened. Later, we hear more news of the virus breaking out in the Tropical Isles, and we head out to investigate once more. At this point of the game, I just decided to grind for a few hours. I wasn't even struggling that much, especially with speed hacks. I guess the trauma from my Dusk playthrough is lingering. I gotta make sure that doesn't happen again. So, I did quite a bit of degenerating and digivolving, and ended up with a powerful team of ultimate level Digimon. This marks a bit of a turning point in this playthrough, because from here on out, boss fights become a breeze. At the end of the Tropical Isle, we find a mind-controlled Gabumon, and I get to see the fruits of my labor as my Digimon dish out huge chunks of damage. Just like Azulomon, Gabummon's memories of what happened are hazy. At Digi Central, Yuji schedules a meeting for all of the Tamers to discuss what the heck is going on with this virus. The meeting establishes that the culprits behind the virus are probably bad Tamers, who are humans that don't work with the Union and are just assholes for the heck of it, I guess. Shortly after, we hear news that some bad Tamers are wreaking havoc at Junk Factory. So we head there and corner them, and in an attempt to escape, they attack us with a Grand Locomon, who's just a really cool train. I really like this guy. After defeating and capturing them, we find out the location of the Bad Tamers boss, who's in an area called Hard Mountains. Okay, first of all, Hard Mountains, terrible name. Second,
those are mountains.
And third, jeez, this is one of the more egregious examples of Digimon Dusk copying maps. In the depths of Hard Mountains, we find the Bad Tamer boss, who we learn is working with Unknown D to cause chaos. They spawn in a brainwashed Pagumon to attack us, but my overpowered team takes care of things quickly, snapping him out of it. When we think we can finally capture the boss, he goes, "Woohoo, catch me if you can." Oh no. Darn. If only we could have somehow stopped him. We give chase and corner the boss, but in the end, he escapes with Unknown D's help. Back at DigiCentral, all of the observers are assessing how much of a threat this Bad Tamer boss is, until suddenly, he shows himself right before our eyes. He then brings out an item called an evil ring that has dark power, and uses it to mind control and kidnap Zuchaomon, then tells us to find him at a place called Lava River. Once again, I probably should head there immediately, but I found myself returning to Catherine first, anytime a major story beat happens. Oh, Catherine. At Lava River, we find the Bad Tamer boss. We fight a mind-controlled Zuchaomon, we win, Zuchaomon lets out a huge Shogekiha, and then we... Wait, Shogekiha? I guess the translators missed a spot? Anyways, the Bad Tamer boss is revealed to be Kane, who just can't stop being an awful person. I personally think that this would be a great time to, I don't know, give him a little push and not tell anyone what happened. But instead, we bring him back to DigiCentral and sentence him to be banished to the real world. Because in the end, there's no worse punishment than reality. The virus disaster is now over, and we get promoted to Platinum rank for our feats. Peace is restored for now, but there may be trouble on the horizon, because right before Kane is sent into the real world, we get a glimpse of a chat between him and Unknown D. Looks like this isn't the last time we'll be seeing Kane. The observer for Platinum rank is the Union's leader, Clavisangemon. He brings up that Platinum Tamers have started to disappear, and shortly after, we get a distress call from Calumon to rush over to our DigiFarm. There, we find Unknown D, who reveals his true identity, Alphamon. He repeats his belief that humans cannot be trusted and Digimon don't need to be raised by them. He tried to use the Bad Tamers to ruin the reputation of all humans, but failed. So now, he has one last plan to get rid of Tamers. Awaken a legendary Digimon, and use it to destroy the digital world so that humans will be forced back into the real world. But Alphamon, what about the Digimon? If you destroy the digital world, then the whole point of your plan, Then he absorbs this energy from Calumon, calling it the Light of Digivolution, and apparently that energy has the power to help Digimon digivolve. So now, Alphamon has what he needs to awaken this legendary Digimon. I feel like that came out of nowhere, like why does Calumon specifically have this power? I'm just gonna shrug and keep going. We travel to an area called Core Field in pursuit of Alphamon. Along the way, we fight against some brainwashed Platinum Tamers, including Yuji, and free them from their mind control. Guarding Alphamon's lair at the end of this area is a mini-boss, Armageddonmon. It's a super cool looking Digimon, but I didn't get to marvel its design for long because my team destroyed him in a few turns. Speaking of my team, let's reintroduce them one last time before we head into this final battle. I've cycled through them a lot in this playthrough, but there has been one constant in my team, Gabumon, who's now the Mega Stage Digimon, Metal Garurumon. Also in my main team is Guy the War Growlmon, and Ragu the Cannondramon. And on the side as backup, I've got Ponyo, Cake, and Wiggles. I've been training all 6 of these guys simultaneously, but somehow, my main team ended up way stronger than my backups. I don't know how this happened, but if these 3 go down, I am screwed. Though, with how things have been going with this team recently, I'm feeling pretty confident going into this boss fight. We enter the final arena. Alphamon is about to awaken a legendary Digimon named Chronomon Destroy Mode, who will help execute his plans to destroy the digital world. A Tamer is required to awaken this Digimon, which is why Kane's here too. Man, I'm sick of this guy. BlackAgumon arrives and explains that in order for this legendary Digimon to be created properly, it needs a tamer with a good heart to reflect as its own. Well, Chronomon is being awakened with Kane's heart, who you all know is a piece of shit. So now, if Chronomon awakens, it'll be evil and destroy the entire digital world. This is exactly what Alphamon wanted, and now he's going to... wait, what? He regrets doing this all? He just wanted to make the digital world a better place by destroying it? Alrighty then. In an attempt to stop Chronomon DM from fully awakening, we attack the healing plant he resides in. This fight is kinda bizarre. It's not against any Digimon, just these 4 elemental pods that are surprisingly tough, and in the background is some very chill music for such a climactic point of the story. We destroy the machines, but it's too late. Chronomon DM awakens, and we face off for an ultimate battle. Look at this absolute beast. He is so cool. But this gnarly design is accompanied with the same chill music from our last fight. I could use a bit more oomph to this track, because Chronomon is absurdly strong, even after grinding earlier and overpowering every other boss fight before this. My Digimon are getting knocked out in just a few hits. This is a completely unwarranted difficulty curve, and I'm lucky I prepared for it. Still though, I really had to time my healing items right to keep them alive. After a grueling battle, our team emerged victorious. Defeating Chronomon Destroy Mode frees him from the evil within, transforming him into Chronomon Holy Mode, a Digimon with a heart of justice. I'd like to learn a lot about this guy, given that he's referenced at the end of Digimon Dusk, but he leaves shortly after. Alphamon is now convinced that Digimon and Tamers need each other to grow, and Kane has learned that strength isn't the only thing that matters to a Digimon. They need to be raised with empathy and respect. Because they've learned their lesson, BlackAgumon forgives them and welcomes them back into the Union.
They did what? Hell no!
For saving the digital world, we're crowned as the Union's first Tamer King, and the curtains close on our story. After the credits roll though, we groggily wake up in the same classroom we began our journey in. Don't tell me this was all a dream. Then, a Digivice around our neck flashes. It's Gabumon calling us. Thankfully, the digital world is real. We did go through a journey to become Tamer King, and we can return anytime for another adventure. That nostalgic computer room still gets to me after all these years, and it's such a great place to conclude our journey. Overall, I had a good time with Digimon World DS. The Digimon art in these games is always a treat for the eyes. It's pretty remarkable how good these designs hold up after all these years. I like the music too, I just wish there was a bit more, especially for that final boss fight. Man, think about the potential there was to have an epic theme for Chronomon DM. But alas, I can only imagine. The dialogue in general was another unexpected highlight. I just found it fun. And hey, I didn't get my heart broken. I enjoyed having a main protagonist that actually spoke. The folks at Digi Central helped me feel immersed. And Catherine, of course, was amazing. Now, let's talk about the story. It's a little rough around the edges. There's lazy expedition dumps, plot points seemingly brought out of thin air, and an overarching villain with questionable plans. But even despite the story's flaws and mediocrity, I still found it engaging and earnest. We're on a journey to become the strongest tamer in the Union, face powerful foes, and to make new friends. Who wouldn't love that? There's also some heartwarming lessons to be told here, like the value of empathy and the ability for anyone to change. You've already heard me gush about my favorite part of the story, which was Pagumon's reincarnation arc. My biggest regret in this playthrough was not adding Antliamon to my team. I really like that Digimon, and I can't believe I didn't think of doing that. One thing I wish I got more out of the story was a little more info about Chronomon. I got comments on my Digimon Dusk video saying that this game would help explain Chronomon's reference in the sequels. But I don't know, I just feel like there's some missing context still. Now let's move on to the gameplay. I find the combat system compelling, and I like the strategy involved with this grid system, but I am not a fan of this absurd encounter rate and these slow battle animations that don't do much for me. Maybe there was some potential here, but overall, the gameplay was implemented in a way that makes me feel like I'm getting a disproportionately low amount of value compared to the amount of time I spend grinding. As a kid, I didn't mind, but now, as an adult, I guess my patience just isn't the same. My gripes with the gameplay are shared between this game and Digimon World Dusk, since they're almost the same in that aspect. There's actually a lot of other comparisons to be made between these games, a somewhat concerning amount. It probably has to do with the fact that Digimon World DS and Digimon World Dusk were released less than a year apart from each other. I think I've got an interesting perspective on these games having played them out of order, but at the moment, I don't want to delve too much into comparisons. For now, let's wrap this up. The grindy gameplay of Digimon World DS definitely isn't for everyone, but the characters and story have a universal appeal. This game captures that feeling of adventuring into the unknown, overcoming adversities, and growing through the bonds you make with Digimon. I'm happy to end things by saying that revisiting Digimon World DS was a pleasant surprise. Thank you for joining me on this playthrough, and I'll see you next time.